Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. The MLB All-Star break I always point to as like it's officially the deadest like few days of the year because you have no football, no basketball, no hockey, no anything, and now baseball is now on a break. We do get Marcell Ozuna in the home run derby. The Braves did wrap up their first half of the season with a series win over the Padres. Let's talk about the first half just as a whole. You're 11 games over 500, 52 and 41. It certainly doesn't feel that way.
No.
Right? And I think there's a couple reasons for that. One being the Phillies have just played out of their minds. They're close to 30 games over 500. You're 8.5 games back. I think if the Phillies aren't playing out of their minds, you're probably sitting here, especially with all the injuries, and you're like, that was a decent half of baseball, especially from a pitching perspective. I thought it was as good as you possibly could get. But obviously, because the way the offense has performed, because you have three guys in the lineup that are barely hitting over 200 and they're just kind of shuffling around over there, you're kind of feeling a little empty. What were your thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, there's a meme, and I'm going to post it to Twitter later of a Braves fan, drowning in water, and then it zooms out and his feet are on the ground.
Yeah.
It's like the sky is falling for Braves fans because perspective matters, where there's 25 other ball clubs that would love to be sitting where the Atlanta Braves are, but our expectations and the goals are just so much higher than that. So when other people, Braves fans, try and tell you, keep it in perspective, tell them to, F off. No, keep your expectations high because we're the Atlanta damn Braves. We expect to be the best team in the NL East. We expect to be in World Series contention throughout the season, and we just haven't been that. So, yeah, we can point to all the positives, and, they're headlined by the pitching staff, absolutely, and Marcell Ozuna, but you can't, and Austin Riley as of late, no doubt about that. But you can't talk about the first half of the season without all the negatives, which are injuries, slumps, extended slumps. And I just did a piece on the biggest single disappointment through the first half of the season, and it's Matt Olson. So wherever you want to start, you could look at it in an optimistic viewpoint that the pitching staff is the best one that we have had since maybe like when the three Hall of Famers were Roman Turner field. Like that's it's been.
I think from top to bottom. I mean, I don't really remember those times. I mean, I was younger. Obviously, I've read up about them and stuff like that. And obviously, you had those big three, which I would say are better than these big three.
Certainly.
I mean, those are three guys that are in the Hall of Fame, and you could throw Steve Avery in there during the early part of that run. But, from top to bottom, this pitching staff might be the best that we've ever had. And when you think about what, the Braves pitching staffs of the past, or the recent past, when we won the World Series, like it wasn't anything like
comparable.
That. I mean, we had Dylan Lee and Tucker Davidson starting in the World Series, especially when Charlie Morton went down in game one of that World Series. I mean, Ian Anderson's like an afterthought now. And yes, Ian Anderson was a decent pitcher and he was great in the postseason, but he wasn't like a superstar. He wasn't an all-star, even an all-star. So the pitching staff from top to bottom, I mean, I did something when I talked about grading this, and I want to talk about a few of the positives. And the main two, Ronaldo Lopez and Chris Sale. I mean, you have MLB's ERA leader. You have the ERA plus leader in Chris Sale, leader in wins, leader in FIP. The two guys that are definitely in the top five of the Cy Young race, maybe 1 and 2. I mean, and they really both have a case.
Top 3.
Yeah, I mean, you they're in there, like, right? Like, it's Paul Skeens, Rangers, or Zach or whatever. They're right in the mix, and you could probably say Chris Sale is leading that. And I looked it up, and they're making. We talked about it, but it still shocks me every time I say it. $4 million. Yeah. I mean, they literally entirety of Chris Sale's salary is being paid by the Boston Red Sox, and then Ronaldo Lopez is making $4 million, and you have him under contract for $11 million the next 2 years, and you have a club option for $8 million in year 4. So the offseason acquisitions, I think, are bigger than all of the negatives. Like, I think that needs to be the biggest storyline, because I think the negatives can be fixed because we've seen the track records of these guys. I mean, there's no doubt Ozzy Albies needs to be better. Matt Olson definitely needs to be better. Outside of Orlando Arcia, I still think all of those guys can come back.
Yeah.
So I still think the storyline, to me, the biggest storyline is the pitching staff, especially with the emergence of Spencer Schwellenbach. I think we're going to see Dosbel Hernandez. I mean, they have a guy that has not given up a run in 10 innings and has a 1.61 FIP, and he's just in the minor leagues chilling. Yeah. Like, the pitching staff, to me, is so good. And I give you credit, Alex, because you talked about this group being referred to almost as the offense was if everything went right. Well, everything hasn't gone right. Spencer Strider, or the guy that we expected to be the front runner for the NL Cy Young Award, went out for the season, and this group is still up there with one of the best pitching staffs we've ever had.
Yeah, the rotation is first in ERA, I believe, and the bullpen isn't far behind. As a staff, I think they're second or third. Yeah, the only reason that we're talking about a team that's 11 games over 500 is because of the rotation. I mean, look at that stat. I know we broke that streak of like 27 games where if the pitching staff gave up 4 or more runs, we lost 27 games in a row. I know we did end up breaking that streak last week or 10 days ago or so. But I mean, that just speaks to what this season has really been for the Atlanta Braves. It's been shaky, streaky offense that has been carried. Carried isn't even do it justice what this pitching staff has done, and it's not just the rotation. It's been the relief corps as well. I mean, when we get a lead, I don't know the stat off the top of my head. We get a lead in the 7th or 8th inning and later. I think we're winners of like 42, and we've maybe blown a couple of them.
I think we've lost 3 games where we've had a seventh inning or a later lead. So yeah, I mean,
it's
the pitching
unbelievable.
Stuff, but the offense. I mean, let's go to the negative and what the offense has been. And I think this last week or so, maybe the last 10 days, really sums it up because we've seen guys start to turn the corner. And I think in 8 out of the last 10 games, maybe something like that, we scored 5 or more runs, which for this team a couple months ago didn't seem like it would ever happen. I mean, there was a stretch, literally a 2-month stretch where the Braves didn't score 5 runs in back-to-back games, like for 2 months. I mean, that's how bad it was. But it does look like with Austin Riley and Sean Murphy heating up, but still, like, they can't carry the offense every single game. And when you don't have everybody picking up the pieces, you get the games where, like, the Braves have been playing pretty good ball over the last week or so, but the losses have been shutout losses. And this
0-1 in a max-free gym.
Yeah, a team that hadn't been shut out in over a year's time, and now we've been shut out 5 times in the last 25 games or whatever it is. And I think that's really just that tells you that's the story of what this offense has been. It's just as currently constructed, even with guys starting to turn the corner, it's not good enough right now. And that's why we're looking at the trade deadline. We're saying we've got to add. Now you're getting Michael Harris back. We keep talking about it. That's going to be huge. Hopefully he's back. I don't know how much of a rehab assignment. I imagine it's not going to be anything crazy because we need him. Frankly, we need him. When he's healthy, let him figure it out because a guy that's, figuring it out, Michael Harris, is better than what the Atlanta Braves have right now. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. Just before we hopped on here, Brian Anderson was designated for assignment. That clears up a 40-man or option or designated for assignment. I can't remember, but that clears up a roster spot. I don't know if that's going to be for Michael Harris coming after the break. Maybe there's a pending move, so keep an eye on that. Maybe that by the time this airs, we'll know more about that. But it definitely looks like some sort of move is coming. But I think over these next 3 weeks, I mean, we're going to see a lot of moves. And frankly, I think the Braves, I know a lot of guys are out there selling and we call them crazy, but I think this might be the most aggressive we see Alex Anthopoulos because of that pitching staff, because this pitching staff is so damn good. And we talk about not punting, seasons in the championship window, but this is you got something here. You got something with this pitching staff right now. Where Alex Anthopoulos has always been aggressive, I think this might be the most aggressive we see him. I think whether it's multiple guys, whether it's a big guy, and people, another thing I want to say, I know I'm kind of rambling and just going on things. People talk about pieces. Well, I'll tell you a piece right now, Drake Baldwin, who just shined in the MLB's future game, and now you don't want to trade these guys that are playing great. You want to talk about trade chips? Nacho Alvarez and Drake Baldwin. Those are 2 great ones. So don't tell me that the Braves don't have pieces to make a big move. I'm not saying one's coming, but they have the pieces to make a very, very big move if they want to.
Well, just because, your trade simulator says that this isn't a good deal doesn't mean it's not possible. Alex Anthopoulos traded 4 bags of baseballs for that 2021 deadline that those 4 guys propelled the Braves to the World Series. So if there's a deal out there and the value is right, Alex Anthopoulos is going to jump all over it. Pay no mind to whatever trade simulator you're looking at. But back to the negatives in terms of the offense of what this been. 8 All-Stars last year, 5 of them have spent time on the IL this year. So that certainly contributes to some of the slumps. Austin Riley spent time on the IL. Obviously, Orlando Arcia was an All-Star. He also spent time on the IL. Ozzie Albies, Sean Murphy. And I think that obviously plays a part in this, especially Sean Murphy and Austin Riley, as you saw those 2 guys over the last 2 weeks play like the All-Stars that they are. In that same breath, I dubbed Matt Olson the biggest disappointment because of expectations. you had expectations for Orlando Arcia. That's your own damn fault. That's your fault for not recognizing who he is. Now, did anyone think he was going to be this bad? I don't think so. I think he still has some positive regression. He looked a little bit better in that Padres series, had a home run, had a couple of other hits, but he's never going to be that guy that you saw in the All-Star game. And so the entire body of work for the offense is as close to a failing grade as you could possibly give. I know you gave him a D, and the only real reason for that is because Marcell Ozuna is the best, arguably the best offensive player in baseball. He's top 3 in the 3 Triple Crown categories. That would be amazing if he won it. Obviously, he's a participant in the home run derby as well. I think if you're looking at the Atlanta Braves offense, you can't count on Orlando Arcia to pick it up. And if he does, it's going to be marginal at best. I think it's really simple. Ozzy Albies he's not been doing bad. I think he's been doing good, and he's trending better as of late. Obviously, Michael Harris coming back is a big deal. You got to look at the guy last year who had 54 home runs, 120-something RBIs, led the league in slugging. He doesn't have to be that guy, but he can't be the guy with 13 home runs at the All-Star break, batting .220, and he's never going to be a .280 guy like he was last year, and that's not what he needs to be. He needs to start putting balls in the stands, and he'll tell you that more than anything, that he needs to be better. And I think if you're looking at, in terms of what the All-Star break brings the Braves, we can sit back and kind of assess the first half of the season, look forward to the trade deadline. Matt Olson's probably just catching his breath. Matt Olson is just catching his breath, trying to look forward, reset to the second half of the season. And I can absolutely guarantee you this is a guy who's very capable of slugging 800 over the course of a month. And that's the guy I'm looking towards to kind of help turn this entire offense around. Jared Kelenic is not going to be that guy for the long haul. I'm a big believer in him, but let's call a spade a spade. The two guys who we need to be our best players are Austin Riley, who is now acting like it, and Matt Olson. Now, obviously, we need other guys to do their part. Sean Murphy, Ozzy Albies, Travis d'Arnaud is having one of those streaks, 2-homer game on Sunday. But it's Matt Olson, and I think if you're looking at the single biggest disappointment of the season, it's not even an argument that it's our first baseman.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here all day and rant about Matt Olson and how bad he's been, because it's been shockingly bad. And
what's so bad about it is
bad over the last month. I mean, the last month has been
horrid. He's batting like 120 or something over some sort of span. And the biggest reason why it's so frustrating is because we know he can be better. It's not like Orlando Arcia, we can gripe, but it's like, all right, well, what are we going to do? We're really just griping, old man yelling at clouds. Orlando Arcia is not a good baseball player. Matt Olson is a good baseball player, and he's not living up to expectations.
Yeah, he's been terrible. I mean, and I agree with you. I think he will be better. I mean, he can't.
Yeah, he has to be.
He honestly
better.
Can't be worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you think he can't be
worse?
There's
no way.
But these last month of baseball, dude, it's been shocking.
He's been bad. He's had bad luck. It's a combination of everything.
It's been shockingly bad. I don't know, but I agree with you. I think he has to be a catalyst for this team if this offense wants to turn around. It doesn't matter who they bring in. It doesn't matter what additions they bring in. They need Matt Olson to be the Matt Olson of last year. And if that happens, they're going to have a lot of success.